Lock him back in.
I know.
Yep. There's a stranger in the audience. What? I've seen George lately, but I haven't seen Hank in a long time.
You've been out.
Great.
You get
Like a reunion here, so.
Nice from
Happy anniversary. How are you?
across the board.
I think standing up. There's a whole stack of them up there. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us today at MRC's annual meeting. I'm Karen Cassell, president of the board, and we're really excited to be able to be here today with all of you in person and virtually. We've got quite a bit slated for our agenda today. We have a little bit of board member business. We're going to present the results of the election that took place. Our treasurer will give a report. Our executive director is going to give a little look back over the year and talk a little bit about what MRC has done in the last 12 months, which has been quite a bit, and talk about where we're going and some of the goals for 2024. We have some guest speakers. We got Kathy Conlow, executive director of the Maine Municipal Association, and we've got James Condella from our partner Innovative Resource Recovery, who'll be talking about what's happening at the plant and what their plans are and how things are going there. And we'll have a report from our technical consultant about MRC's financial position, and we'll also be opening it up to comments and questions from folks and any comments that people wanted to have. But before we jump into things, I just wanted to acknowledge the year that it's been. It's been a very momentous 12 months and past 18 months, really, since MRC took over ownership of the facility in Hamden in, I believe it was September of 2022. So a lot has been accomplished. We're in a really good place. Last year, we were still sort of in an uncertain period, but now things look much more certain. And we're on a path towards reopening of the facility. We're very excited about that and very excited to be able to report to you about the progress that's been made and what's happening right now and what will be happening in the next 12 to 18 months to get the facility up and running. And with that, I wanted to offer our thanks and acknowledgement of the efforts of our executive director, Mike Carroll, who just continues to astound us every day. We're very happy that he now has partners to help carry the load and move the process forward and provide that technical and financial support for the facility redevelopment and reopening. But Mike, I mean, your leadership has just been second to none, and we wouldn't be where we are. Leadership and guidance and impeccable organization and ability to manage the endless amount of details that continue to face us every day, every month, every quarter. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And I also wanted to acknowledge and thank our partners in all of this. Of course, there's Waste Management and Casella. PERC has been very helpful despite their difficulties, but we really do appreciate everything that they've done to help support to get us where we are today. And along with that, the town of Hamden and our friends and colleagues at DEP. So I'm sure there are plenty of others, of course, our members who have been with us through thick and thin. So thank you all very much. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we'll move in. We do have a little bit of business to conduct today, which we don't typically do at our annual meeting, but we wanted to take care of a few things. So I will start with approval of the agenda that we had for today. I don't know if anybody had any changes that we need to make. Seeing none, we'll assume that the approval is good to go, or the agendas are good to go. And really the main business item on there is consideration of the minutes of the November 17th special board of directors meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve. So moved. A motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? And just as a reminder, one of the action items there, which is why we wanted to approve these, is because MRC board at that meeting, we did vote to join the Maine public employees retirement system. So we're trying to move that forward and get that set up so that our executive director and other staff can participate in that plan starting next year. So thank you very much for that. So all in favor? And we had, I believe Bob is with us.
Yes.
Bob, are you in favor? Thumbs.
Yes.
Thank you. the other item that I wanted to mention was that I did at the end of October get formal notice from Ella Bowman of her resignation from the board. As you know, she left her position with the town of Oakland. So with that vacancy on the board, according to the bylaws, the board can vote to fill that vacancy, which we'll take up at our January board meeting. So I just wanted to mention that.
Is that filling it till the next election or filling the remainder of the term?
It's filling it till the next election.
Okay.
And then at that election, that position would be up for filling through the completion of that term. So I believe Ella's position was going through 2025, December of 2025. So we can appoint someone if they'd be up at the next election, and then that person that gets elected into that position would go through 2025. That makes sense.
Perfect, thanks.
Very good. All right. So moving on, we have our election that we hold every year. As you all probably know, we have a 9-member board of directors. We're all volunteer, unpaid, and we're elected from the membership. The requirements are that you have to be an appointed or an elected official, an employee, or a legal resident of a member community. So each member, or actually anybody's eligible to nominate folks. And this year we received 4 nominations. We had Paula Scott from the town of Hampton. We had our 3 incumbents, which is Kevin Howell, town manager of Carmel. We had Melissa Doan, town manager of Bradley, and we had Sophie Wilson, until recently, town manager of Orono.
Resident of
And just to be
Orono.
clear, still eligible because she's a legal resident of the town of Orono. So we had those nominations. And of course, the election process is that each member is allowed to cast 1 vote. The votes are weighted based on tonnage. And I believe we have the results available, which I don't even actually know what the results are. Congratulations, Melissa Doan, having received 51% of the vote, Sophie receiving 22% of the vote, Kevin receiving 16% of the vote, and Paula receiving 11%. So we had 3 positions that we were electing on this one. So the top 3 vote getters would be Melissa, Sophie, and Kevin. Congratulations. Welcome back to the horseshoe. And Paula perhaps will be primed up for a vacancy that may be coming for the board in January. So, well, thank you very much all for being willing to serve and putting in your nominations. We really encourage diversity in the board. We appreciate folks being interested in this topic, and we encourage folks that have any interest to submit nominations in the future. So there are 3 positions up every year. So, okay. And with that, I'm concluding my comment on those topics, and I would hand it over to our treasurer to give us a little report on our finances.
So we have money, which is a wonderful way to end the year. We have about $123,000 in our operating account, a little over $1 million in our contingency account, $37,000 in our development and distribution account, and about $1.4 million in our wealth management investments. I just want to say this is a lot better than I thought we were going to end the year when we were sitting here last year. I'm impressed. I'm impressed for 2 things. Number one, Mike is relentless in making money on our money, and he did a really nice job with the first to make us a little extra money this year. But also, for the first time in many years, we're actually adding money back into the wealth management invested accounts at the end of the year. George, I think you suggested we were going to be at about this mark when we ran numbers. And I love the way we can do conservative financial forecasting and come in better than we think, right? So $50,000 in. I am very happy. I was really a little worried there for a little bit, so that's good. It's not the Bank of MRC though, George, right? So, when we look at the budget, we're gonna share a draft budget. We're not gonna vote on that tonight. The draft budget is shared to give members a sense of where the board is thinking, how we're gonna spend money for the next year. We actually go through it in detail and vote on it at the January meeting, which I think is January 24th. Does that sound right? And so the board will adopt it at that point. So when we look at the budget, tip fee, Mike is adamant that we talk about tip fee. So if you remember in the joinder agreements, there's a tip fee calculation that is based on CPI. Those numbers will be out later in December. Mike assures us that he'll tell us as soon as we know in December, and that there will be multiple reminders that the tip fee will be going up.
So January 1.
As of January 1. Never goes down. Only goes up. So when we look at the budget for next year, this budget is up about $81,000. But it does not use any of our existing funds to fund our operations, which is really what we were looking for. We're expecting to get a similar amount of dues. The big difference in this, there are two areas that are revenue that we did not have last year. One is the annual lease payments from Municipal Waste Solutions. See, I've stopped trying to say the acronym because I get it backwards. And the other is in the MRC management service fee, and that's kind of why Mike is still pretty invested in the billing and things like that for that money. The $80,000 of revenue that you see coming in for the utilities and miscellaneous reimbursements, that's 100% reimbursement. So you'll see that also in the expenses. And we are using up the grant that we got for staffing support for Mike. So I'm really excited to see somebody at the plant doing some of that administrative work for you.
Me too.
Yeah, I bet you are. So in budgets, your expenses have to equal your revenues, otherwise you have a problem. So when we look at this, administrative costs are going up, but a good chunk of that is around our part-time, our full-time staff support person. We expect an increase in our technical consulting. My understanding with that is that this coming year, we're gonna be doing a lot in this transition.
We've put together a very robust marketing, branding, education, and community outreach. That's all part of the technical consultants budget.
And you'll notice that we are also expecting to keep money in contingency just because we're going to follow Georgia's motto and budget for anything we can, right? Anything that might come up. And the big news for us for next year is instead of $50,000, we're expecting to put $75,000 back into the wealth management account. So we expect this number to keep growing. And for once in many years, I am very happy to deliver that treasurer report. And
It's been a long time coming.
it has, you know, it's a lot different being the treasurer when you've got $26 million that you're looking at and more money is going in every year. And it's really nice to see us turn that tide, and I really appreciate the board members that came before us all and George's work to make sure that we had those funds built up and had the foresight to know that we were going to need to not just renegotiate, but create something that would meet the members' needs 2 decades down the road. So I'm thankful for that. That's all I have.
Thanks, Sophie. All right, Mike, you're up.
Mine's gonna take a little bit longer.
Counting on that. We all want to hear
It's been a big
glory
year.
days that have been the last 12 months.
So taking a look back, in August of 2022, MRC purchased the Hamden facility from the bondholders for 1.5 million under the identity we created, Municipal Waste Solutions, MWS. MRC worked with several lien holders who had attached liens to the facility and satisfied them for just over another $1 million. We also worked with the town of Hamden to ensure they were paid everything owed. MRC then owned the facility free and clear, but needed a partner to fund operations and capital expenditures. Over the next several months, MRC went out seeking partners by way of solicitation letters. But at the same time, MRC and its consultants were working behind the scenes, presenting to the Environmental Resource Committee, meeting with financial institutes, and having regular meetings with regulatory departments, preparing for the possibility that MRC may have to go it alone and restart the MWS facility. Once we took ownership, MRC immediately worked with the team at Haley Ward and the DEP to transfer the permits associated with the facility to the MWS name and remove the former owner. In June 30th, 2023, MRC and Innovative Resource Recovery, MRC's selected partner, closed the deal for Innovative to become the co-owners of Municipal Waste Solutions. Innovative purchased 90% of MWS for $3 million, including an additional 20 to 30 million in available on-hand funds for the capital investments needed to restart the facility. MRC retained a 10% ownership, and we will continue to manage the MWS waste flow. We did choose Innovative. Why did we choose Innovative? Their firm has a division that specializes in turning around distressed assets. A multi-billion-dollar asset management firm backs their financial capability. No borrowing funds or seeking investors is needed before capital investments are made. And finally, the team at Innovative brings to the table, the team Innovative brings to the table is incredible. With backgrounds in recycling, technology, engineering, environmental services, waste long haul, waste operations, and finance, we knew our members were going to be in good hands. Innovative Resource Recovery is leading the way in developing technologies that recover valuable resources from the waste stream. This public-private partnership with the MRC at Municipal Waste Solutions facility will serve as a blueprint for how communities can maximize landfill diversion and minimize environmental impact. James Cordella, Innovative CEO, will go into much more detail when he presents on all the fantastic things currently happening at MWS. We also worked on DEP's waste plan and the EPR program. With the acquisition completed, the MRC no longer solely is responsible for overseeing the facility. We are starting devoting more time this year back to what it is the MRC does for its members, staying in tune with what's going on with municipal solid waste in this state. MRC attended the public meeting for Maine DEP's 5-year waste management plan, which goes into effect on January 1st, 2024. MRC submitted its comments on the plan, which can be found on our website. High-level MRC suggestions for the plan focused on communications, hub and spoke approach, and technology. We also been significantly engaged in the Extender Producer Responsibility Program known as the EPR. DEP distributed 3 phases of draft rules for the EPR program. MRC's board and staff have weeded through all of the phases and submitted comments, which can also be reviewed on MRC's website. MRC is actively meeting with the folks from the DEP who are working on the EPR program. We aim to work with DEP, providing information on data obtained from the MWS facility and the MRC members to make this a successful endeavor. Ideally, the EPR rules would support long-term plan for forward-thinking approach beyond the municipal transfer station for enhanced recycling and solid waste management. We have also had more time to meet with members. MRC's board members and I have attended functions and been speaking with members this year. MRC had a booth and attended the Maine Municipal Association's annual conference in August. MRC's Vice President Aaron Hoodry and innovative CEO James Cordella were guest speakers at the Maine Recovery and Recycling Association annual meeting. I myself have now had more time to get out and see members. The first several visits I made were to certain members, thanking them for their help and assistance and presenting them with some Subway gift cards. Over the last 3 years with the MWS facility under the watchful eye of the MRC, we've encountered various challenges at the facility with extreme weather conditions, power issues, and maintenance needs. In some instances, we relied heavily on the knowledge and experience of our members to advise us instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. So it was finally time to say thank you. Next slide. Our new active role at the facility. First is ownership. MRC still solely owns all the land that MWS facility sits on. The land was not part of the sales agreement with Innovative. Only the assets were. MWS is a for-profit identity MRC created under our umbrella, which the MRC retains 10% ownership of. As part of the deal with Innovative, MRC will have a member of our staff in a senior management role at MWS. The senior management roles will be decision-making roles. MWS seniors management team will be made up of at most 5 in at least 3 spots. MRC will hold one of those spots. Also, as part of the partnership, MRC signed a long-term management service agreement with MWS. This agreement allows the MRC to continue to oversee waste flow logistics on behalf of MWS, which also pays the MRC a monthly fee to do so. The monthly fee significantly is a contribution to recouping most of the funds we spent carrying the facility while paused. The MRC management service agreement includes other services that we will provide, such as, but not limited to, acting as a liaison for MWS to members, host community, and regulatory authorities, coordinating legislative monitoring and advocacy, community outreach and education, recording of delivery volumes and municipal reporting, managing of all invoicing and collections for tipping fees. These are all tasks the MRC had already stepped into while the facility has been paused. The management service agreement now gives MRC a much better opportunity to work side by side with Innovative and be involved on the day-to-day while also being compensated. It also allows us to add staff, which we have already done. Slide. MRC has set some goals for 2024. We will work closely with Innovative, host community, DEP, and MWS communications on restart plan and timeline. We will provide regular communication to members with MWS status updates when members' waste will be scheduled for test runs and date estimations on commencing commercial operations. Dedicating funds in fiscal year 2024 for an aggressive marketing communication campaign to include tools that members can access for community outreach and education. Mass distribution of a survey MRC created and focuses on compiling data, but most importantly, finding out what other needs our members have with whatever waste needs our members have and possible synergies amongst the members. Continuing working with DEP on EPR to ensure that the MWS is an asset and a resource for this program, especially for the MRC members who rely on the MWS footprint so that they comply with the EPR regulations. Visiting each member's location, staying in regular contact with regulatories, and providing complete updates and transparency to them. Next slide. Also, we're going to be bringing on new associate memberships. As part of our commitment to sustainable waste management solutions, MRC is actively seeking new associate members who can contribute to our mission of responsible waste disposal and environmental stewardship. By bringing on new associate members, the MRC will only grow in numbers and have a stronger voice in Maine's waste space. Although new associate members will not receive the same discounted tip fee rate as MRC current members, nor will they have ownership or voting rights, new associate members will benefit from a tipping fee lower than a regular MWS customers, but not lower than the current MRC member. MRC representation in legislative and regulatory activities, access to our regional and corporate services that the MRC will be developing over time, such as local outlets for managing tires, bulky waste, commodities, and other non-MSW solid waste that is not acceptable waste or requires special handling. Annual track and reporting of MSW and recycling data provided to our members for compliance and reporting to regulatory authorities, and community outreach and education material. And finally, I mentioned this in July, but I feel it's also fits in here as we review the roller coaster of the year we have. Board members, Jonathan, George, Jesse, Amy. What we have accomplished this year was beyond imaginable. Many said it couldn't be done. Some even said walk away while you can. Others have heckled us in the media. You all held firm, believing in MRC's mission, and led the members and staff to today's positive outcome. Thank you and congratulations. We did it. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, welcome up, Kathy Conlow, Executive Director of the Maine Municipal Association, and
How pleased I am to hear Sophie give a positive financial report. It's been years, so she's never looked so delighted.
I will remind folks that Kathy, of course, sat on the board for many years.
Yes, yes. So I do want to thank you all for inviting me here today. As MRC marks a momentous occasion, a year-end celebration of collective effort, determination, and vision. It is with great pleasure, pride, and quite frankly, a sense of relief that I extend my warmest congratulations to the MRC municipalities for their incredible achievement of restarting the regional solid waste disposal facility. I spent 9 years serving on the board of MRC and the last 2 watching from Augusta as this group overcame numerous obstacles to the sale and reoperation of the facility, and you never gave up. And I too was even in Augusta told that I left because I flubbed this one up. So the accomplishment stands as a testament of what can be achieved when communities come together with common purpose, the collective disappointment followed by collaboration, dedication, and perseverance shown by the staff, board, and each municipality involved has paved the way for a transformative initiative that will benefit generations to come. The reestablishment of this regional facility is not merely a creation of a facility, it symbolizes unity, foresight, and commitment of sustainable practices by municipalities. And by joining forces and remaining partners throughout this trying period, we have demonstrated real power that collaboration has to overcome one of our most significant challenges. Moreover, the reopening of the plant signifies more than just a practical solution to a waste management problem, but it embodies a collective vision for sustainable, affordable, and more environmentally conscious future of solid waste disposal. The tireless efforts put forth by the group, every individual, every local leader, and every community member involved in this initiative deserves the utmost appreciation and admiration. But to you, Karen, and the members of the board, especially Mike and George, I know how much work you've put in, and I know your unwavering commitment to the well-being of the communities and the preservation of the environment. And it serves as an inspiration to all of us. So the achievement in the end is not the end, but rather the beginning of a new chapter in solid waste for this region, a chapter filled with opportunities for continued collaboration, innovation, and sustainable disposal of solid waste. It lays the groundwork for further advancements in waste management and setting a precedent for other regions to follow suit. As you celebrate the milestone, let us not forget the significance of what has been accomplished. Take pride in this collective achievement and continue to nurture the spirit of cooperation that brought us here today. And once again, congratulations to all of you and the 115 rural municipalities involved in this remarkable endeavor. Your dedication to creating a more sustainable future is an inspiration to all of us. And thank you again for having me here today. You guys are fantastic and I consider you friends, so.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Kathy.
Thank you.
And we are so glad to have an ally in you and Augusta, and you've been a tireless champion, so we appreciate that. Thank you for coming today. And next up, I think, is James. James Condella, our partner from Innovative Resource Recovery.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, good seeing everyone again. Sorry, a couple minutes late there. So thanks for having us, and just want to thank again the MRC for, everything they've everything you've been through and kind of your mission and vision to get to where you are today, and really for selecting Innovative as the partner to move forward with. For for myself and Matt Merchant and Kevin Hogan, for those of you who haven't met them, part of the Innovative team, excited to be part of this and looking forward to the months and years to come. Partnership. So just for those of you who or on video or may not have been here last time at the last board meeting, I'm James Condella, CEO of Innovative Resource Recovery, and we are the group that is working with the MRC to restart and renovate the plant in Hampton. So Innovative Resource Recovery, our capital partner is White Oak Global Advisors, multi-billion-dollar investment fund that also share, not only are they familiar with, Mike used the word distressed assets, but businesses that have fallen on some challenges. And so they're comfortable with some of the hair that comes along with that at times, but they also have a sense of trying to do more in the waste space with regards to, bringing more sustainability to the sector, but in a very prudent and disciplined approach to it as well. Next slide, Mike. Oh, sorry. Oh, where's the slide?
Got it.
Yeah. So I'm just for background, for those of you who may not have been at the other board meetings, the focus of the plant restart is really about capturing the biogenic fraction of the material that's inherent in the waste. So, it's a beautiful, it's a well-built, well-constructed facility, a lot of great attributes to the site with regards to infrastructure, scales, roads, a 150,000 square foot building, relatively new, gently used material recovery facility to process the waste on the front end. What we saw going into it is the original technology was looking at taking a lot of the biogenic materials, your paper, your organics, things like that, and turning that into a pulp. And that was just something that when we stepped into it, we just saw some additional challenges and didn't feel comfortable moving forward. And so we are moving down the path of installing new anaerobic digestion facilities at the site. And this is probably very difficult for those to see on the screen, but it's just at a high level. Bringing in the waste, separating out the easy to recover recyclables, your PET, HDPE, your plastics, your metals, things like that. But the larger fraction of what it can't be recovered in traditional recovery facilities is the organic fraction and the paper fraction. But that's great feedstock for anaerobic digestion. And so for those of you who may or may not know, it's basically basically in the absence of oxygen, breaking down that biogenic material into biogas. And given the unique attributes of the MRC site, there happens to be a pipeline running right through there. And so the project entails installing new anaerobic digestion equipment to work in parallel with some of the equipment that's there, to then create a biogas, upgrade that to renewable natural gas, and inject that into the pipeline. And that's the base foundation for the plan going forward. And so we've been quite busy since our partnership consummated earlier this year, working towards that. Mike, next slide. Oh, sorry. Keep looking at Mike. So quite a bit has been done in a couple of areas. And we reported on this back in October at the last board meeting. We ran a large scale test of the facility in late July, bringing in waste for a number of different communities, running it through the front end of the plan. A couple of goals there were how does the equipment run? Does it still run? Is it appropriate? Seeing where some of the issues we know of the past had to be repaired, as well as areas on the front end need to be retrofitted on the material recovery facility. One of the other bigger components was extracting that material, the fines and the paper, and you can see on the screen that pile of what looks like garbage is really the feedstock for anaerobic digestion. That's the fines. And so we took that material, working with our technology consultant, and sent that out to a lab. And we're continuing to do a number of different tests on how does the combination of this material work with the equipment we've selected. As you think about the different variations in ways from winter to summer, from different communities, different times of the years, how do you design a system that's robust enough that handles all of that material? And we continue to, we're ongoing through that testing right now. We continue to run tests, and likely we'll run tests through startup, because that'll only enhance how we step into the operations and make sure we're efficient as possible when we do startup. So a lot of work has been completed on testing, really with an eye towards informing the design and the operations of the digestion system. So that's one major track of work that's ongoing. The other is on modification of the front end of the plant, the material recovery facility. So there are some things that were left in this state where that needed repair. This is kind of think about bringing in the waste. You have to shred it, you have to rip the bags open. You have to put it through a number of screens and optical sorters to extract the different fractions of the waste. So we've been working very closely with a group called CP Manufacturing. They're the original manufacturer. And really, what are the repairs? What are some of the retrofits? And then what are some of the new pieces of equipment we're going to install with an eye towards reliability, safety, and ultimately making sure we optimize the feedstock that we're putting towards the anaerobic digestion system. And so on that other last, I'll say, kind of major path is the design of the anaerobic digestion system. So I've been working, we actually went out with several RFQ requests for qualification processes and requests for proposals to several different vendors to isolate down to the one or two we're likely to move forward with on the anaerobic digestion system. Going back and forth on discussions about what's in their scope, what do we have to manage, how do we integrate with our existing facility. Also retained a detailed technical engineering firm with expertise in anaerobic digestion, as well as some existing knowledge of the facility, and that's really been instrumental in helping us identify where are those integration points between what's there and what works, and then how do we leverage that so we can minimize the amount of new equipment and therefore the expense of that. So that's been ongoing through really kind of more through this fourth quarter as we've really started leaning into the engineering. And that'll continue through the first half of the year with an eye towards, I'll say, selecting the specific AD supplier of the plug flow reactor. That's the type of high solids digestion unit. That'll be in Q2 with an eye towards kind of advancing the detailed engineering around that through the first half of the year, so we can make the more significant down payments on steel and get the clock ticking on a lead time for delivery of that equipment. And again, that's all lining up for detailed engineering through first half of this year, start of construction the second half of 24, with an eye towards commercial operation in 25. So that's a lot on the technology, the engineering front. But to complement that, there's all of the other elements of the project, the regulatory, the commercial, financial, et cetera. And so a number of different avenues there, some of which we touched on at the last board meeting, but just advanced them since. Basically on the commercial side, really kind of on the regulatory front, really both coordination with the main DP to make sure that we're designing all of this within the confines of the local, both at the town of Hamden and the state-based authorities, continuing to kind of be informing them of how we're designing it. Town of Hamden with regards to their wastewater system, making sure that we're designing it in line with what's existing. So a lot there. Also doing quite a bit on the renewable natural gas front. We've spoken with a number of different off-takers of the product. to determine what's the best value. So without boring you all, the renewable natural gas has different classifications. And with that come different values. And that's really one of the primary revenue drivers for the project is the value of the renewable natural gas. So we've been working with a group called Eco Engineers. They're a consulting group that's pretty predominant in the RNG space on really defining the attributes that ultimately determine that value and working with the off-takers about coming up with term sheets for that. Quite a bit along that front, also working with Bangor Natural Gas on the pipeline interconnect. There's a number of different technical provisions around how you do that so that it's safe, effective, and so doing quite a bit of work with Bangor Natural Gas on that front. On the financial front, a lot of what we are doing is eligible through the Inflation Reduction Act for what's called an investment tax credit. And so while it's not 100%, a significant amount of what we are doing is available for a rebate through the federal government based upon not only the fact that we're creating renewable energy, but also relying on prevailing wage workers to install the project using domestic content in the equipment that we're buying. And so all of that kind of combines to a score that helps you maximize your potential rebates through the government. So we've been working with an outside firm to itemize, again, how to maximize our design and our construction in order to achieve that. What else am I missing here on the commercial front? And really just continued, discussions with the main DEP about permitting and how do we bridge ourselves from now through to startup in 25. Next slide. And so I think I kind of just glossed over most of the commercial without even using the slides. But it's all covered there. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, path forward is really an intense focus on the engineering and the technology selection, as well as integration with the existing plan with an eye towards really issuing those purchase orders for the long lead equipment in mid 24, and an eye towards breaking ground this coming year in the second half of the year. But really the bulk of the work occurring through kind of the winter and the early 25 with an eye towards commercial operation later that year. The goal is to ultimately arrive at 180,000 ton per year throughput capacity. But that will take time. That's, you don't turn the switch and it happens day one. And so the eye would be really 26 is a ramp year, getting us from that initial starting point to go through up to 2 shift operations to get us where we need to be by the end of 26 at a steady state basis. And so that's, hopefully that's a informative update. And if there are things I didn't cover, I'm happy to take questions. But again, just want to kind of thank the MRC for, and the board and Mike in particular for, being a good steward of the plan over the last 3 years. He left it in a great spot and continues to be very helpful in how we move forward. And want to thank the board for, again, selecting us, having us, and thank Kevin Hogan and Matt Merchant of Innovative for being in the trenches with me every day to, and Mike, help bring this to fruition.
Thank you, James, and Innovative and White Oak for your participation in this process. We're super excited to have you so hard on it. It's clear that you guys are earnest and really forging ahead as fast as possible. Not as fast as we would like. Realism is valuable too. So
Well, we also have lots of work streams if anyone would like to volunteer their time to we'll dish it out accordingly.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the board have any questions for James? We get public comment coming up so people can pepper questions to James or anybody else at that point if they'd like to from the audience.
Thank
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 you.
you, James.
All right, George, you're up with a little, wrap us up with some more financial
George,
news.
you're here.
I'm here. Yeah, I am not virtual.
Person.
I'm not in a
It's great.
box on the screen. I'm actually in person here and I got to walk around the plant yesterday and spend some time both with Michael and with James and his team as well. So good to be here. And so my job is in past years is to look and take a snapshot of what has happened in the last year, from last year to this year, and to put it in a matrix because I'm kind of known for doing that as well. So I have one of my matrices on the screen and in front of you all. So just looking at the MRC, not only its financial position in terms of the numbers, but in terms of both its opportunities and its liabilities. If you look 1 year ago today, the MRC was engaged with in the process of getting to a point with the developer that it hoped it could move forward with. Today, we have achieved that goal and have started moving forward. And it is a big difference, what a difference a year can make. In terms of the physical assets, a year ago, the MRC owned the site. The MRC still owns the site. That hasn't changed. We've been able to make these advances while keeping control of the site. And I think that's something that we were not always sure we would be able to make happen. In terms of looking at what that means in terms of the site, a year ago, we had liens on the site in part due to some unpaid bills with the, or I should say deferred bills that were ultimately paid this year. And also we had liens with that, I think this was mentioned earlier, with a number of contractors left over from a prior negotiation. At this point, 1 year later, the liens are paid off. The town of Hampton is current. And in fact, when we had lease payments that we hoped would be coming forward, and if you remember a year ago, the deal was that MWS was leasing the land under the site lease from the MRC. And since the MRC was the sole source of funds for MWS, the fact that there was no lease payment being paid was not surprising, but was also not contributing to our progress. Today, IRR is our site lessee, and they're paying their lease payments and are current, and that is a big change and a source of relief to many. A year ago, the MRC owned 100% of MWS, but it lacked the means on its own to move forward. We were looking for a partner. We were looking for public opportunities for financing as well. And of course, that search takes resources. So we were in the process of investing in a partnership and looking at a way to go forward. At this point, the MRC owns 10% of MWS, but in fact, we now have a partner. The MRC no longer needs to invest those resources in looking for a partner who can turn those resources to moving the partnership forward. And I think, again, a much better position to be in. I threw some numbers down just looking at numbers in the bank account from then to now. And yes, we got there by selling 90% of the entity, which at one point we owned 100% of, but we knew at all points that we would need to take on an outside partner or an outside funder. And so it's no surprise. And now in part because of the transaction on June 30th, the MRC has more cash than it had before. It's been able to retain and add to its investment accounts, and that process will continue going forward. So the financial situation has turned about. In terms of responsibilities, last year, the MRC was managing bypass and funding when there were cash flow losses. The MRC was the sole source of funding to address them. That situation has changed as well. At this point, MRC as yield is being paid by IRR to manage bypass. We've managed to restructure renegotiation of certain agreements. IRR is funding the cash flow, not the MRC. It's much better position where, again, we are not looking at a drain on resources to stay where we are, but we can dedicate our resources to where we are going and where we'll be. And again, it's a much more future-looking situation. There were a number of liabilities on our balance sheet that are essentially close to zero. There was a significant, I'll use the term backlog, a year ago, and that's been addressed more or less. And so that again is an improvement in position. The liens have been paid off. The MRC had been paying expenses to keep the heat on, to keep the plant. When a fuse blew or something happened, it was Michael running and finding a contractor to fix it and using scarce MRC funds to keep us where we are. We are no longer in that position. The liens have been retired. The IRR is paying the expenses, and IRR is investing in progress towards reopening. So the simple summary is what a difference a year can make. The financial condition for the MRC is improved. the focus has gone from finding a partner to working with our partner and making progress with that partner and achieving success with our partner. Let's not kid ourselves. There's a lot of work ahead of us. There's work on the technical front, financial front, economic front, even political front. But we're able to focus on the future and addressing the challenges than we are in staying where, just running as hard as we could to stay in place. It's a big change in the year. A lot of people who deserve a lot of credit in doing this. This is really take a large community, make this progress happen, and I'm pleased to have my small part to play and the opportunity to help and serve the MRC. And what we hope will be a very successful endeavor. So thank you, everyone. That's the snapshot for this year.
Thank you, George.
Sophie, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I do have a comment, and we've made much of the fact that it's so much rosier today than it was at the last annual meeting. But it's not just that we have more money in the checkbook and a partner who very excited to have a partner that will tell us when there are bumps in the road. That's a wonderful thing to have, and so that we're working in reality is wonderful. Don't ever change that, please. But I think, especially since we've asked our staff and our consultants to talk a lot, that the piece that has been missed so far in this presentation is the fact that the bumps that we had this past year are not insignificant. And the reason that we were able to turn it around to a positive is because we had a team working with this board. With a board president and a vice president who were putting in an incredible amount of time and creativity to find solutions where it looked like there was nothing. So between Jonathan and George and Mike and Karen and Aaron, that is why we are here, where we're here. And I know you're not going to pat yourselves on the back, but you really should, because this is incredible.
Well, I want to expand that to the entire board because I do want to thank everybody for their time and dedication to serving on this. It's not been an easy road. There's been a lot of work that we've had to do, a lot of meetings we've had to attend. And I do appreciate everybody stepping up to do this. It's, it's important for this region. We know it, we believe in it, and I'm glad to see that we're going to be able to get it to fruition. So if you don't forget about yourself as the treasurer, that is no small task by any stretch of the matter. So we appreciate your guidance and
Much smaller with Mike at the helm. I like that. Yep.
That is true. And I also want to echo what Mike said about with this great partner that's helping moving things forward, really now having the ability to go back and do more to actively help our members on issues of the day. Our focus doesn't have to be, just basically trying to survive and do something to make sure the plant can make it. We're able to go back and really try to add value to our members, help build the bridge through this period until the plant is up and running with constructive and help that we can provide them. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that. I know Mike is looking forward to being able to get out and see more of our members and do that kind of hands-on work and add value in other ways. So. Tony?
We're talking about the bumps in the roads. They go back further than a year.
Yeah, I was looking at the 1 year snapshot.
What I'm getting is the collective MRC team was the bumps in the road were presented to us by Mike. And every time he had to come in front of us and describe a bump, I just waited, and he always had a solution, proposed a solution every time. I always, when the meetings had bumps, I always left the meetings encouraged because of his efforts and support team. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Tony. Thank these guys, because I was on the phone with them as soon as I hit, so. Thank you.
Any other comments from board members? Well, if not, it's actually time for public comment. If anybody would like to say anything, have any questions for anybody and on the board or our partner,
Online questions.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
We have a few questions here from Jackie Elliott. The first one is, where are you with development of end markets?
That would be a question for James.
And the next one's for you too.
I'll be honest, stay right there.
Yeah.
End markets, so, I touched on renewable natural gas is the primary revenue driver for the end market of a portion of the recovered product, so, very well advanced, you can't get into specifics of counterparties, but there are a number of firms out there, both for the gas, which includes the energy value of the gas and the renewable attributes, and so we have, discussions on term sheets with several off-takers, trying to figure out the right one under the right terms. On the commodities, traditional PET, HDPE, again, those ultimately will go to an end source that will then take those bales of commodities, whether it's OCC or the plastics or the metals, and reprocess them into something else. And there's a number of firms there, so we haven't made any formal commitments to one firm in particular, because there's always considerations about volumes, price, terms, etc. But that's well understood. As we kind of go beyond the base plans, there's still, as we come out of the startup, we'll get around 50% diffusion rate. But there's other opportunities. So while we have an intense focus on the engineering of the first plant, we continue to look at bolt-on opportunities, whether that's plastics upgrading for some of the films plastics. There's a number of other different technologies that, for example, there's different ways to take the plastics and turn them into products, road material, building blocks, things like that. They all sound great, and they're all, we're giving them the amount of effort and kind of diligence it deserves, but not ready to say that's something that we could, that we should start designing in now. So hopefully that kind of answered that question.
And a couple more from Jackie Elliott. I'll read the whole thing if you need me to break it down. What is the time projection for getting the scale in operations? What type of new equipment technology are being considered? What is the expectation about getting gas of sufficient quality to pipe off site? What is planned for the plastic residual component of the waste stream, and is current testing meeting compliance?
All right, so, geez, Eric, could you start with the first one? I was
Yes.
trying to see.
That's what I know.
First.
What is the time projection for getting the scale in operations?
Okay, scale and operate, I think I mentioned in the presentation, start commercial operations in the second half of 25. And target getting to scale of commercial operations, which is, that 170 to 180,000 tons per year by the end of 26.
What types of new equipment technology are being considered?
So the primary, I'll say different technologies on the front end for the material handling, but conventional shredders, different screens, that's kind of, a lot of it exists. The core piece of technology is what's called a plug flow reactor, which is a certain type of anaerobic digestion equipment that is able to support the higher solids content, more contaminated feedstock.
What is the expectation about getting gas that is of sufficient quality to pipe off site?
So as part of that technology, sorry, I guess the other part of the plug flow reactors, you make a low quality biogas that then you put through a scrubbing system, which removes the impurities and creates pipeline quality natural gas at the end. And then that's where we're in discussions with Bangor Natural Gas. There's a high pressure pipeline, probably less than 30 yards from where the digester will go, that we have to agree on a formal interconnect. So that means commercial terms as well as technical requirements to safely inject that gas back into their grid to then be sold on the market.
What is planned for the plastic residual component of the waste stream?
So some of the plastic components will be recovered in the front end, and those will be baled, whether that's for PET, HDPE commodities. Those will be baled and sold, but there is going to be a portion of plastics that is currently in the residual stream that the base plan is that it will go out as residuals to landfill, but our goal over time is to increase our diversion percentages. And those were some of the technologies I mentioned earlier. There's different ways, there are different products that could potentially be made on site with processing equipment, as well as different manufacturing facilities off-site to take, for example, film plastics is a challenging plastic to deal with. And there are different companies out there, and it's just vetting their technologies for deployment at our site or formally entering into an agreement and making plans to work with them over the long term.
And is current testing meeting compliance?
Current testing meeting compliance, I'm not sure, but I would say,
I think
Yes.
they're not testing.
Yeah.
yeah, we're not testing, we're doing our own testing to kind of test the, like I said, the energy content of the feedstock, and that's all going as planned. And there's nothing going on at the site specifically, but obviously from a compliance perspective, everything we do has to be in compliance, so.
That's all the questions online.
Great. Anything else from the audience? All right, well, with that, I will adjourn the meeting and we can continue our conversations on the side here with some cookies, and
Yeah.
we thank you all very much for coming and appreciate your support, really. Happy holidays.
Excuse me.
Thank you.